The last line of defense. Captain Ilara Voss stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiance, her gaze fixed on the vast emptiness of space through the main viewport. At 42, she had spent more than half her life in service to the Earth Space Command, but never had she faced a situation like this. The Defiance, humanity's most advanced warship, was about to engage in a battle that, by all logical assessments, they could not win. "Captain, final diagnostics complete. All systems operational," reported Commander Jackson Chen, her executive officer. His voice remained steady, but Voss could see the tension in his shoulders. "Thank you, Commander," she replied, her voice calm despite the storm raging inside her. Status of the Vortheri fleet. Lieutenant Zoe Rice, their tactical officer, looked up from her station. "Still on approach to the Arcturus colony, Captain. 87 vessels confirmed. Their current velocity suggests they'll reach the colony in 17 hours. 87 warships against one. The odds were beyond desperate. 3 weeks ago, humanity had made first contact with the Vortheri Collective, an expansionist alien civilization from a neighboring star cluster. The diplomatic mission had ended in disaster when the aliens demanded immediate surrender of all human territories. When the Earth government refused, the Vortheri launched a devastating attack on the outermost human colonies. New Sydney, Titan's Reach, and Proxima Centauri Station, all gone in less than a day. Billions of lives extinguished. The Earth Defense Fleet had mobilized immediately, but a crippling virus had somehow infiltrated their navigation systems. Nearly every warship in the fleet was stranded in orbit around Earth or the inner colonies, unable to plot a reliable course through the dangerous reefs of hyperspace. All except the Defiance. As the prototype for the next generation of human warships, the Defiance operated on an isolated system that had remained unaffected. It was now Earth's only hope, one ship against an Armada. "Captain," Chen said, lowering his voice as he approached her chair. "The crew is ready, but they deserve to know what we're heading into." Voss nodded, opened ship-wide comms. A soft tone indicated the channel was open, and the captain rose from her chair, facing the bridge crew but speaking to all 312 souls aboard the Defiance. "This is Captain Voss. By now, you all know our mission. The Vortheri Collective has destroyed 3 of our colonies and shows no sign of stopping. Their next target is Arcturus, home to over 12 million people. We are the only vessel capable of intercepting them before they reach the colony." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "I won't lie to you. We are outnumbered and outgunned. Command has ordered us to delay the enemy fleet until the rest of our ships can be repaired, but I believe we can do more than that. The Defiance was built to change the rules of engagement, and that's exactly what we're going to do." Voss gripped the railing in front of her. "Each of you was selected for this ship because you're the best Earth has to offer. Your ingenuity, your courage, your refusal to accept defeat, these are the qualities that have defined humanity since we first looked up at the stars. Today, we put them to the test." She could feel the weight of their attention, the mixture of fear and determination that permeated the ship. "We have something the Vortheri don't. We have the accumulated wisdom of thousands of years of warfare, of being underdogs, of finding ways to survive against impossible odds. Earth has placed its trust in us, and we will not fail. Prepare for battle stations. Voss out." As the communication channel closed, Chen approached her again. "Inspiring words, Captain. Do you actually have a plan?" Voss allowed herself a small smile. "As a matter of fact, I do. Gather the senior staff in tactical. We have 12 hours to prepare a surprise for our new friends." In the tactical room, surrounded by her department heads, Voss revealed her strategy. It was audacious, borderline suicidal, but it played to the Defiance's unique capabilities. Dr. Aisha Roman, the ship's chief science officer, looked skeptical. "You want to use the experimental phase shift drive as a weapon. Captain, with all due respect, we haven't even completed full testing on it for navigation purposes. Which is precisely why the Vortheri won't be expecting it, Voss countered. Their scans will show them a standard human warship with conventional armaments. They'll expect us to attack head-on, or perhaps try some form of guerrilla tactics. Chief Engineer Malcolm Rivera leaned forward, his weathered face thoughtful. It could work, but we'd need to reconfigure the drive's containment field. If we get the calculations wrong. He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew the risk. The ship could be torn apart, converted to energy across multiple dimensional planes. Can you do it? Voss asked simply. Rivera exchanged glances with Raman. With her help on the quantum calculations. Yes, but we'll only get one shot. One shot is all we need, Voss said with conviction. Lieutenant Rice, what do we know about Vortheri fleet formations? The tactical officer brought up a holographic display of previous Vortheri engagements recorded by automated drones before the colonies were destroyed. They operate in a highly centralized command structure. The flagship coordinates all movement and fire control. It stays here, in the center of the formation, protected by layers of support vessels. She pointed to a massive ship at the heart of the enemy fleet. If we could somehow reach it. That's exactly what we're going to do, Voss said. We're going to use the phase shift drive to jump directly into the center of their formation, bypass their outer defenses entirely, and take out their command ship before they can react. Silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. That's... Chen began, then paused to collect his thoughts. That's either brilliant or insane, Captain. The line between the two is often thin, Voss replied. Get to work. I want the drive modifications complete in 6 hours, battle simulations in 8. Dismissed. As her officers filed out, Voss remained, staring at the holographic representation of the enemy fleet. So many ships, so much firepower, all directed by a civilization that saw humanity as nothing more than an obstacle to be removed. They had misjudged her species, she thought. Humans didn't surrender when backed into a corner. They fought harder, fought faster, took risks that more established species would consider unthinkable. By the time the Defiance reached the projected intercept point, the phase shift drive had been reconfigured according to Voss's specifications. The ship hovered at the edge of the Arcturus system, its sensors picking up the approaching Vortheri fleet. From this distance, they appeared as little more than specks against the darkness, but Voss knew each of those specks represented devastating firepower. All departments report ready, Captain, Chen announced. Engineering confirms the phase shift drive is online and calibrated for a single use. Voss nodded, settling into her command chair. Helm, set course for the center of their formation. Coordinates locked on their flagship. Tactical, all weapons to standby. When we emerge from phase shift, I want everything we have directed at their command ship. The bridge crew acknowledged their orders with quiet efficiency. There was no bravado now, no speeches, just professionals doing their jobs in the face of overwhelming odds. Engineering reports phase shift drive at full power, Chen said. Ready on your command. Voss took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define not just her career, but possibly the future of the human race. If they failed, Arcturus would fall, and after that, the inner colonies would be next. Earth itself might not be far behind. Execute phase shift, she ordered. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself appeared to bend around the Defiance. The stars stretched into lines of brilliant light, and the ship was enveloped in a corona of energy that defied normal physics. Voss felt a momentary sensation of existing everywhere and nowhere at once, as if her consciousness had been smeared across multiple dimensions. And then, with shocking abruptness, they were there, in the heart of the Vortheri fleet, surrounded by enemy vessels, directly alongside the massive alien flagship. Phase shift complete. The helm officer shouted. Position confirmed. We're exactly where we aim to be. Fire everything, Voss commanded, turning the tide. The Defiance erupted with a barrage of destructive force that would have been impressive from a ship 3 times its size. Railguns accelerated tungsten slugs to relativistic speeds, ripping through the unprepared defenses of the Vortheri flagship. Plasma cannons followed, their superheated payloads melting through exotic alien alloys. Finally, a salvo of quantum-tipped missiles, the most advanced weapons in Earth's arsenal, detonated against the massive vessel's engine section. The effect was catastrophic. The Vortheri flagship, unprepared for an attack from within its defensive screen, suffered critical damage in the first seconds of engagement. Secondary explosions bloomed along its hull as power systems overloaded and weapon caches detonated. On the Defiance's bridge, the initial euphoria of a successful attack quickly gave way to the realization of their predicament. They had wounded the beast, but now they were surrounded by its entire pack. "Flagship severely damaged, Captain," Rise reported, her voice tight with tension. "But the rest of the fleet is responding. We have multiple weapons locks. They're firing. Evasive maneuvers," Voss ordered. "Get us moving." The human warship lurched into motion, thrusters flaring as it attempted to clear the immediate danger zone. But there was nowhere to run. The Vortheri vessels, recovered from their initial shock, began concentrating their fire on the intruder in their midst. The first hits came seconds later. The Defiance shuddered as energy weapons impacted its shields, draining them at an alarming rate. "Shields at 70% and dropping," Chen called out. "We can't take this kind of punishment for long." Voss gripped her chair as another impact rocked the ship. "Status of the enemy flagship." "Still operational but severely crippled," Rise answered. "They're losing power and multiple systems are offline." "But Captain, they're moving into a defensive position. The rest of the fleet is forming up to protect them." Voss had expected this. The initial strike had been successful, but not decisive enough. Now they were caught in the center of the enemy formation with no way out. The phase shift drive, their one advantage, had been configured for a single use and was now offline. "Options," she demanded, looking around at her bridge crew. Chief Engineer Rivera's voice came over the comm. "Captain, the phase shift drive is fried. We could try to restore conventional FTL, but it would take hours we don't have." "What about weapons? Do we have enough left to finish the flagship?" "Negative," Rise replied. "They've adapted their shields to our weapon frequencies. We'd need twice the firepower to break through now." Another hit, harder this time. The lights flickered, and warning klaxons began to sound throughout the ship. "Shields at 45%, Chen reported grimly. "Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. Damage control teams responding." Voss's mind raced. They had gambled everything on that first strike, and it hadn't been enough. Now they were paying the price. But she wasn't ready to concede defeat, not while her ship could still fight, not while the people of Arcturus still needed them. "Dr. Rahman," she called over the comm. "What about the drive's containment field? Can we repurpose it?" There was a pause before the science officer responded. "Repurpose it how, Captain?" "You said earlier that a containment failure would convert the ship to energy across multiple dimensions. What if we controlled that process, created a cascading failure, but directed it outward?" The implication was clear. Turn the ship itself into a weapon of last resort. Rahman's voice was hesitant. "It's theoretically possible. We could modify the field to create a directed quantum detonation. But Captain, the ship wouldn't survive the process." Another hit rocked the Defiance. A console exploded nearby, sending a crewman sprawling to the deck. "Shields at 30%, Chen reported. "We're running out of time." "Work with engineering," Voss ordered. "Make it happen. And prepare evacuation protocols for non-essential personnel." As Rahman and Rivera began their desperate work, Voss faced a brutal calculus. She might have to sacrifice her ship and a skeleton crew to complete their mission, while giving as many of her people as possible a chance to escape. "Captain," Rise suddenly called out, "I'm detecting unusual readings from the enemy vessels. Their weapons fire is becoming erratic." Voss frowned. "Explain." "It's their coordination. After our attack on the flagship, their response was perfectly synchronized. Now, some ships are firing late, others not at all. Rice studied her readings intensively. The command ship's central coordination seems to be breaking down. Chen leaned forward. Could our attack have damaged their fleet command systems more than we thought? Or perhaps, Voss began, a new possibility forming in her mind. Lieutenant Reyes, analyze their communication patterns. I want to know if they're using some kind of centralized network for fleet operations. Reyes worked quickly, her fingers flying over her console. Yes, Captain. They appear to use a quantum-entangled communication system. All ships are linked directly to the flagship, with the flagship damaged. Their entire command and control structure is compromised. Voss finished. She stood up, her mind clear despite the chaos around her. Belay the evacuation order. Change of plans. All power to engines and bring us around for another pass at the flagship. Captain, Chen questioned. They're vulnerable, Voss explained. The Vortheri rely completely on centralized control. Without clear commands from their flagship, their coordination falls apart. That's why some ships are firing late or not at all. They're waiting for instructions that aren't coming. Understanding dawned on Chen's face. So if we can completely neutralize the flagship, the rest of the fleet becomes disorganized, unable to coordinate effectively, Voss confirmed. It's our only chance. Raman, forget the containment field modification. Instead, I need you to disrupt their quantum communication network. Can you generate an interference pattern based on what we know of their technology? Raman paused, considering. Yes, I believe so. If I reconfigure our sensor array to emit a counterphase signal tuned to their quantum frequency. Do it, Voss ordered. We're going to hit them where it really hurts, their ability to function as a collective. As the ship banked hard, bringing its remaining weapons to bear on the damaged Vortheri flagship, Raman worked furiously to create the interference pattern. The enemy fleet's fire remained uncoordinated, some shots going wide, others coming dangerously close. Pattern ready, Raman announced after tense minutes of work. Emitting now. A subtle vibration ran through the ship as the reconfigured sensors began broadcasting the counterphase signal. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the enemy ships began to falter. Some drifted out of formation, their engines sputtering. Others fired wildly into empty space, their targeting systems scrambled. It's working, Reyes exclaimed, unable to contain her excitement. Their fleet coordination is collapsing. Voss nodded, her expression grim but determined. Now for the killing blow. Helm, bring us in close to the flagship again. Tactical, prepare all remaining weapons. Engineering, give us everything you've got for this pass. The Defiant surged forward, engines straining as it closed the distance to the wounded Vortheri command ship. Enemy vessels attempted to intercept, but without central coordination, their efforts were disjointed and ineffective. Some collided with each other, their navigational systems compromised by Raman's interference pattern. Weapons locked, Reyes reported, ready to fire on your command. Fire, Voss ordered, her voice steady. The Defiance unleashed its remaining arsenal in a concentrated barrage. Railguns, plasma cannons, and the last of their quantum missiles converged on the already damaged flagship. This time, the effect was decisive. The massive alien vessel shuddered under the assault, its shields failing completely. Secondary explosions cascaded along its length before a blinding flash erupted from its core. Direct hit to their primary power source. Chen shouted over the noise of their own systems, struggling to maintain integrity. The Vortheri flagship didn't merely explode, it disintegrated, torn apart by the catastrophic failure of whatever exotic power source had driven it. The shockwave rolled outward, battering the Defiance and sending it tumbling through space. Brace for impact, Voss called, just before the wave hit them. The human ship groaned under the strain, its hull creaking ominously as structural integrity fields struggled to compensate. For a moment, it seemed as though the Defiance might share the fate of its victim, but gradually the tumbling slowed, and the ship stabilized. "Damage report," Voss demanded, pulling herself back into her chair. Chen, wiping blood from a cut on his forehead, checked his console. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Shields completely depleted. Weapons systems offline. "But we're still here, Captain." "And the Vortheri fleet?" Reyes, who had maintained her station throughout the turbulence, looked up with an expression of disbelief. They're in chaos, Captain. Without the flagship, and with our interference pattern still active, they can't coordinate. Several have collided. Others are firing on each other, apparently unable to distinguish friend from foe. "Life support status?" Voss asked. "Operational on most decks," Chen reported. "Emergency systems are responding as designed." Voss allowed herself a small smile. "Well done, Defiance. Well done, all of you." The next several hours were a blur of damage control, tending to the wounded, and monitoring the increasingly disorganized Vortheri fleet. Without central command, the alien Armada had devolved into individual ships acting on their own initiative, some retreating, others continuing to fire ineffectively, a few simply drifting in space, apparently waiting for orders that would never come. 18 hours after the battle, as repair crews worked to restore the Defiance's basic functions, a transmission came through from Earth Command. "The reinforcements are here," Chen announced, relief evident in his voice. Through the viewport, Voss could see them, the first wave of Earth warships, their navigation systems finally repaired, arriving to secure the victory the Defiance had improbably achieved. Admiral Helena Way's face appeared on the main screen. "Captain Voss," she said, her normally stern expression softened by genuine admiration. "We came as quickly as we could. I see you didn't wait for us to start the party." "The Vortheri didn't give us much choice, Admiral," Voss replied. "The Defiance is in rough shape, but we've discovered something crucial about the enemy." She explained what they had learned about the Vortheri's centralized command structure and their vulnerability to quantum communication disruption. Way listened intently, occasionally nodding. "This changes everything," the Admiral said when Voss had finished. "We've been fighting them as if they were like us. Adaptable, decentralized. But they're not. They rely completely on hierarchy and perfect communication. Their strength is also their weakness," Voss agreed. "Without their command structure, individual Vortheri ships seem almost paralyzed, waiting for instructions." Way's expression turned grim. "We've received intelligence that this was just their first wave. There are more fleets coming, Captain. Many more. Then we'll be ready for them," Voss said with quiet confidence. "The Defiance has proven that humanity doesn't need numerical superiority. We just need to understand our enemy and adapt faster than they can." In the following weeks, as the Defiance limped back to Earth for extensive repairs, the story of its impossible victory spread throughout human space. One ship against 87, a suicide mission transformed into the most lopsided victory in the brief history of human interstellar warfare. The Vortheri, for their part, were forced to reassess their strategy. Their second wave, when it arrived 3 months later, found not a disorganized human resistance, but a fleet of ships equipped with quantum disruption technology. The battle that followed was still fierce, but the outcome was never in doubt. 6 months after the Battle of Arcturus, representatives of the Vortheri Collective approached Earth with a proposal for armistice talks. The species that had demanded humanity's unconditional surrender now sought terms for peace. Captain Ilara Voss, newly promoted to Admiral, stood beside the Earth President as the treaty was signed. The Vortheri emissary, an imposing figure with iridescent scales and 4 piercing eyes, regarded her with what she interpreted as a mixture of respect and wariness. "Your species surprised us," the emissary said in the formal tone of their translated speech. "We believe your technological inferiority made victory inevitable. We did not account for your adaptability." "That's a common mistake when dealing with humans," Voss replied evenly. We've spent our entire history being outmatched in one way or another. It's taught us to find advantages where others see none. A lesson the collective will not forget, the emissary assured her. Your victory has been studied extensively by our war theorists. Some believe it to be anomalous. Voss smiled slightly. Then I suggest they prepare for more anomalies. The Defiance was just one ship. Imagine what our entire fleet can do. The emissary's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Voss had come to recognize as acknowledgement. We need not imagine. That is why we seek peace. As the formal proceedings concluded, Voss found herself standing alone at a viewport, gazing out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other species were watching, learning from what had happened between humans and the Vortheri. The galaxy had expected humanity to be easily swept aside by the more established collective. Instead, they had witnessed something unprecedented. A single ship turning the tide of an entire war through ingenuity and courage. Admiral, Chen's voice interrupted her thoughts. Her former XO, now captain of his own vessel, approached with 2 glasses of champagne. Lost in thought. She accepted the glass with a nod of thanks. Just wondering what's next. The Vortheri won't be the last to test us. No, Chen agreed, but thanks to the Defiance, they won't be as quick to underestimate us. The story's already becoming legend across the frontier worlds. Legends grow in the telling, Voss cautioned. We were desperate and lucky. And brilliant, Chen added with a grin. Don't forget that part when they write the history books. Voss laughed softly, raising her glass in a toast. To the Defiance, then, and to whatever comes next. As their glasses clinked, she knew that whatever challenges awaited humanity among the stars, they would face them the same way they had faced the Vortheri, with determination, adaptability, and the unyielding spirit that had carried their species from a single world to the vast frontier of space. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity.